In the bustling heart of Lagos, where dreams shimmer like neon lights and ambition hums louder than traffic jams, Adunni was just another face in the crowd, a university student chasing likes on Instagram. But one fateful day at Oshodi Market, she found a dress so beautiful it felt like destiny, until the nightmares began. Little did Adunni know, this wasn't just a piece of clothing, it came with secrets, curses, and a lesson she would never forget. Before we dive into this thrilling tale, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment, and there is a special link in the description below for you. Click it now. Tell us where you're watching from, whether it's Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, the USA, or anywhere else in the world. We want to hear your thoughts as we journey through this exciting story together. Now let's begin. Adunni sat cross-legged on her tiny bed in Suraleh, scrolling endlessly through Instagram. Her phone screen lit up her face, casting shadows on the peeling wallpaper behind her. The room smelled faintly of incense because her roommate, Ngozi, always burned it while studying. But tonight, Adunni wasn't thinking about schoolwork or exams. She was staring at pictures of influencers posing in designer outfits, their smiles brighter than Lagos sunlight. "Why can't I look like them?" she muttered under her breath, zooming in on a photo of an influencer wearing a red silk dress that seemed to glow. The caption read, "When you slay effortlessly, woman dancing sparkles #OOTD. Ngozi glanced up from her books. "You've been staring at that thing for hours," she said, rolling her eyes. "What's wrong with what you have?" Adunni sighed dramatically. "It's not about what I have, Ngozi. It's about what I don't have. Look at these people, they are living their best lives, and here I am stuck in hand-me-downs." Her phone buzzed suddenly, a notification from her mom's WhatsApp message group. "Beta NGONIE. Be a good girl," the message read, followed by a Bible verse. Adunni groaned and put her phone down. Her mother didn't understand how hard it was to keep up appearances in a city like Lagos. Everyone wanted to shine, to stand out. And if you couldn't afford designer clothes, there was always Oshodi Market, a chaotic labyrinth of stalls selling second-hand treasures imported from all over the world. The next morning, Adunni woke up with a plan. She rummaged through her wardrobe, pulling out a faded blouse and jeans. "I'll sell these online," she told herself. "Then I'll go to Oshodi and buy something amazing." By noon, Adunni was weaving her way through the crowded streets of Oshodi Market. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, spices, and leather. Vendors shouted above the noise, hawking everything from knockoff sneakers to vintage scarves. Adunni wandered aimlessly until she stumbled upon a stall tucked away in a corner. A woman with kohl-rimmed eyes sat lazily fanning herself, surrounded by piles of colorful fabrics. "See anything you like?" the woman asked, eyeing Adunni skeptically. And then Adunni saw it, the red silk dress. It hung limply on a rack, but when she picked it up, it shimmered like fire. The fabric felt soft against her fingers, and the price tag made her gasp. It was almost too good to be true. "How much?" Adunni asked, trying to sound nonchalant. The vendor hesitated. "That one. 2,000 naira. Adunni's heart raced. 2,000? For something this beautiful? She handed over the money without hesitation, ignoring the uneasy feeling creeping into her chest. As she walked away, clutching the dress, the vendor called after her. "Make sure you wash it before you wear it," she said cryptically. "Some things carry more than that." Adunni laughed nervously. "Don't worry, I will." But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a terrible mistake. The weekend arrived, and Adunni decided it was time to debut her dazzling new red silk dress. She had washed it carefully the night before, scrubbing every inch as if trying to erase the vendor's ominous warning from her mind. The dress still shimmered like fire when she slipped it on, hugging her calves in a way that made her feel like an Instagram star herself. "Ngozi, how do I look?" Adunni twirled in front of the mirror, her heart pounding with excitement. Her roommate glanced up briefly from her laptop, then did a double take. "Wow," Ngozi said, raising an eyebrow. "You clean up nicely. But, are you sure you should wear that? It feels different." "Different? What do you mean?" Adunni asked, smoothing out imaginary wrinkles on the dress. "I don't know," Ngozi shrugged. "It just doesn't seem like you. You've never worn anything this bold before." Adunni rolled her eyes. "That's the point. I need to step out of my comfort zone. Besides, everyone will love it." She grabbed her phone, snapped a selfie, and posted it online with the caption, "Feeling myself today, woman dancing sparkles, #new look, #Oshodi Market find." Within minutes, likes started pouring in, dozens, then hundreds. Comments flooded her notifications. "Slay queen. Who is this goddess? Where did you get that dress? Teach me your ways." For the first time in ages, Adunni felt unstoppable. She strutted out of her apartment, heading to a friend's birthday party at a trendy rooftop lounge in Victoria Island. As she stepped into the elevator of her building, though, something strange happened. The lights flickered. "And, what is this?" Adunni muttered, pressing the button for the ground floor again. The elevator groaned and shuddered but refused to move. Panic bubbled inside her as she tried calling for help, but her phone screen went black, the battery drained completely, even though it had been fully charged moments ago. After what felt like an eternity, the elevator jolted back to life and finally descended. By the time Adunni reached the party, she was late, sweaty, and flustered. Her perfect evening already felt tainted. At the rooftop lounge, things only got worse. Adunni mingled awkwardly, feeling more self-conscious than confident. Every time someone complimented her dress, she noticed their tone carried a hint of envy, or maybe it was just her imagination. Then, during a photo session with friends, her phone crashed mid-selfie. No matter how many times she restarted it, the device wouldn't turn back on. "What's wrong with your phone?" one of her friends teased. "Did you download too many filters?" Adunni forced a laugh, but deep down, unease settled in her stomach. This wasn't normal. Phones didn't just die like that unless there was a problem, and Adunni couldn't shake the feeling that the problem might be tied to the dress she was wearing. On her way home later that night, Adunni flagged down a Danfo shared minibus. As she squeezed into the crowded vehicle, another passenger accidentally spilled soda on her dress. Mortified, Adunni jumped out at the next stop, leaving behind her usual route to avoid further embarrassment. Walking alone through dimly lit streets, she suddenly heard footsteps behind her. Her pulse quickened as she turned around, only to see no one there. By the time she reached her apartment, Adunni was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. She stripped off the dress and threw it onto a chair, vowing never to wear it again. Yet as she climbed into bed, she couldn't ignore the nagging thought, something about that dress isn't right. The next morning, Adunni woke up with a headache so intense it felt like someone was pounding nails into her skull. She groaned and reached for her phone to check the time, only to remember that it had died mysteriously the night before. Now, without her alarm or reminders, she realized she was already late for an important presentation at school. "Ngozi," she shouted, rushing out of her room in mismatched clothes. "Do you have your charger? My phone is completely dead." Ngozi handed over her charger reluctantly. "Again? What's going on with you lately? You've been acting weird since you bought that dress." Adunni ignored her as she frantically plugged in her phone. To her relief, it turned on, but instead of showing her usual home screen, a strange image flashed across the display, a shadowy figure standing in front of a mirror, its face obscured by darkness. The screen went black again before she could process what she'd seen. "It's probably just a glitch," she muttered, shaking off the chill running down her spine. With no time to dwell on it, she grabbed her bag and rushed out the door. At university, Adunni's day went from bad to worse. During her presentation, the projector malfunctioned repeatedly, displaying random slides from other students' presentations instead of hers. Her classmates giggled, and even her professor looked annoyed. When she finally managed to get the correct slides up, her voice cracked mid-sentence, leaving her stammering through the rest of her talk. By the end, she wanted to crawl under a rock. Later that afternoon, while walking back to her dorm, Adunni stopped by the campus cafe for coffee. As she waited in line, she noticed a group of girls whispering and pointing at her. One of them snapped a picture when they thought she wasn't looking. "Why are they taking my photo?" Adunni whispered to herself, feeling exposed and vulnerable. She hurriedly paid for her drink and left, but the incident stayed with her all day. That evening, unable to focus on studying, Adunni decided to take a long shower to clear her mind. But as soon as she stepped into the bathroom, the water turned ice cold. Shivering, she tried adjusting the taps, but nothing worked. Frustrated, she wrapped herself in a towel and returned to her room, only to find the red silk dress lying on her bed where she'd left it. Except, she hadn't left it there. She distinctly remembered throwing it onto the chair after last night's disaster. Her hands trembled as she picked up the dress. It felt heavier than before, almost as if it were alive. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her chest, and she dropped the dress, gasping for air. Her vision blurred, and she stumbled backward, collapsing onto the floor. When she came to moments later, Ngozi was kneeling beside her, concern etched on her face. "Adunni, are you okay? What happened?" I don't know," Adunni stammered, clutching her chest. "I think I passed out." Ngozi helped her sit up and handed her a glass of water. "You need to see someone about this. Maybe a doctor or a traditional healer." "A healer?" Adunni scoffed weakly. "Come on, Ngozi, don't start with that stuff." But Ngozi wasn't joking. "Listen, I've heard stories about second-hand clothes carrying curses. People say spirits attach themselves to objects, especially ones that belong to someone who suffered. That dress might not be just fabric, it could be haunted." Adunni laughed nervously, though doubt crept into her mind. Could Ngozi be right? Was the dress really cursed? That night, sleep eluded Adunni. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of the shadowy figure from her phone, the same one she'd glimpsed earlier. Her dreams were filled with whispers, faint but insistent, urging her to put the dress back on. "No," she muttered in her sleep, tossing and turning. "I won't wear it again." But the whispers grew louder, more demanding. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, all at once. By dawn, Adunni was exhausted, both mentally and physically. She knew she couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change. The next morning, Adunni woke up with a sense of dread weighing heavily on her chest. She hadn't slept properly all night, haunted by those relentless whispers and shadowy visions. Her mind kept replaying Ngozi's words about cursed objects and spirits. For the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was truth to the old tales. "Fine," Adunni muttered to herself as she got dressed in plain jeans and a t-shirt. "I'll go see a healer. But if this turns out to be nonsense, Ngozi is buying me lunch for a month." She found a local traditional healer recommended by one of her classmates. The healer, Mama Adebola, lived in a quiet neighborhood far from the chaos of Lagos. Her small compound was surrounded by lush greenery, and the air smelled faintly of herbs and incense. Adunni hesitated at the gate, unsure if she was making the right decision, but curiosity and desperation pushed her forward. Mama Adebola greeted her warmly, her eyes sharp yet kind. "Come in, my child. I can already tell you carry a heavy burden." Adunni followed her into a cozy room filled with shelves of jars, dried plants, and carved wooden figurines. In the center sat a low table covered with a colorful cloth. Mama Adebola gestured for Adunni to sit. "Tell me everything," the healer said gently. Leave nothing out. Taking a deep breath, Adunni recounted her story, the dress, the strange events, the whispers, and the shadowy figure. As she spoke, Mama Adebola listened intently, occasionally nodding or murmuring under her breath. When Adunni finished, Mama Adebola leaned back thoughtfully. "This is no ordinary garment," she said finally. "It carries energy, a spirit tied to its previous owner. You must understand, these things are not always malicious, but they feed on emotions like envy, greed, and fear. That dress has chosen you because it senses your vulnerability." Adunni's heart sank. "What does that mean? What happens now?" Mama Adebola stood and walked over to a shelf, pulling down a small pouch filled with dried leaves and powders. "First, we cleanse the space around you. Then, we perform a ritual to break the connection between you and the dress. But beware, you must never wear it again. If you do, the bond will strengthen, and the consequences could be dire." Adunni nodded quickly, eager to get rid of whatever curse clung to her. Mama Adebola began chanting softly, sprinkling the contents of the pouch into a bowl of water. She instructed Adunni to wash her face, hands, and feet with the mixture, explaining that it would purify her spirit. As Adunni complied, she felt an immediate shift, a lightness she hadn't realized she'd been missing. For the first time in days, the oppressive weight on her chest lifted slightly. But Mama Adebola wasn't done yet. "Bring me the dress," she commanded. "We must deal with it directly." Adunni froze. "What will happen to it?" "It cannot stay with you," Mama Adebola replied firmly. "Such items must either be destroyed or returned to their source. Only then can the spirit attached to it find peace or move on." Reluctantly, Adunni agreed to retrieve the dress. On the way home, she couldn't shake the feeling that the dress was watching her, waiting. When she entered her apartment, the red silk seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, almost taunting her. That evening, Adunni brought the dress back to Mama Adebola. The healer took it reverently, placing it in the center of the room. She lit candles and burned sage, filling the air with a smoky, earthy scent. Chanting in a language Adunni didn't understand, Mama Adebola circled the dress, waving a feathered wand above it. Suddenly, the fabric twitched, as if alive. Adunni gasped, backing away instinctively. Mama Adebola continued her chant, louder now, her voice rising like a storm. The dress writhed violently before collapsing into stillness, reduced to ash in moments. "It is done," Mama Adebola declared, extinguishing the candles. "The curse is broken. But remember, my child, material possessions should not define you. True strength comes from within." The days following her visit to Mama Adebola were quiet, too quiet for Adunni's liking. At first, she felt relief wash over her like a cool breeze after a storm. The oppressive nightmares, the mysterious malfunctions, and the constant whispers had vanished. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe freely. But as life returned to normal, an unsettling question lingered in her mind: why did I let something so trivial, a dress, control my emotions and actions? Adunni sat on her bed one evening, scrolling through Instagram again. This time, however, the glossy photos of influencers flaunting designer outfits didn't fill her with envy or longing. Instead, they made her feel empty. She realized how much energy she'd wasted chasing trends, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't even hers to begin with. "Maybe Ngozi was right," she muttered aloud. "I've been chasing shadows." Her roommate looked up from her laptop. "What are you talking about now?" Adunni sighed. "All this time, I thought looking good meant being happy. But it doesn't. It's just surface-level stuff." Ngozi smirked. "Finally seeing the light, huh? Took a cursed dress to teach you that lesson." Despite herself, Adunni laughed. "Yeah, I guess it did." Determined to make a change, Adunni decided to declutter her life, starting with her wardrobe. She pulled out every piece of clothing she owned, sorting them into two piles, things she truly loved and things she only kept because they were trendy. To her surprise, most of her clothes ended up in the second pile. "I don't need all this," she said to Ngozi, holding up a sequin top she hadn't worn in years. "It's just taking up space." "Good riddance," Ngozi replied, helping her fold the rejects into a large bag. "You can donate these to people who actually need them." As they walked, Adunni reflected on how much of her identity had been tied to material possessions. Growing up, she'd always admired the glamorous lifestyles portrayed on TV and social media. She wanted to be like those influencers, confident, stylish, envied. But now, stripped of the illusion, she saw how hollow that pursuit really was. The next day, Adunni posted a photo on Instagram, not of herself in fancy clothes, but of the donation bag filled with clothes. Her caption read, "Letting go of what no longer serves me, seedling sometimes less is more. #simplicity over style #lessons learned." To her astonishment, the post blew up. Friends and followers flooded her comment section with messages of support. "This is such a powerful message. I'm inspired to do the same. You're glowing without all that extra stuff." For once, the attention felt genuine, not superficial. People resonated with her honesty, and Adunni realized that vulnerability could connect her to others in ways materialism never could. Still, breaking free from societal pressures wasn't easy. One afternoon, while hanging out at a cafe with her friends, someone brought up Oshodi Market. "You should totally check it out," one of her friends said excitedly. "They have amazing deals on second-hand clothes." Adunni stiffened, memories of the corset dress flooding back. "No thanks," she replied firmly. "I've learned my lesson about cheap bargains." Her friend raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong with saving money?" "It's not about the money," Adunni explained. "Some things come with hidden cost, things you can't see until it's too late." Her friend laughed nervously. "Okay, Miss Mystic. Whatever you say." Though her friends teased her, Adunni stood by her decision. She knew she couldn't control what others chose to believe, but she could protect herself, and maybe inspire others along the way. Later that week, Adunni visited a local thrift store run by a women's cooperative. Unlike Oshodi Market, this place focused on sustainability and ethical practices. The clothes weren't flashy or designer knockoffs, but they were handmade with care. "This feels better," Adunni said to herself as she picked out a simple cotton dress. Buying something meaningful instead of just buying for the sake of it. When she wore the new dress to class, Ngozi gave her a thumbs up. "Now that looks like you." Adunni smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in ages. She wasn't perfect, she still struggled with comparison and self-doubt, but she was learning to prioritize authenticity over appearances. A few weeks had passed since Adunni's transformation. She was getting used to her simpler lifestyle, wearing clothes that felt comfortable rather than flashy, spending less time scrolling through Instagram, and focusing more on her studies and personal growth. But Lagos wasn't the kind of city that let anyone stay in their comfort zone for long. One Friday afternoon, as Adunni walked across campus, she heard a familiar voice call out her name. Turning around, she saw Tond, a popular classmate known for his charm and confidence. He was always surrounded by friends, and his social media presence rivaled that of professional influencers. "Adunni." Tond waved enthusiastically, jogging up to her. "I haven't seen you around much lately. Where have you been hiding?" She smiled politely. "Just keeping busy with schoolwork." Tond grinned. "Well, I hope you're free this weekend because there's a big event happening at Eco Hotel. It's a networking mixer for students and professionals. Everyone who's anyone will be there." Adunni hesitated. Networking sounded important, it could help her career, but she wasn't sure she wanted to dive back into the world of flashy outfits and superficial connections. "I don't know," she started. "Oh, come on," Tond interrupted, his tone teasing but persuasive. You can't miss this. Dress to impress, okay. First impressions matter. As he walked away, Adunni felt a knot form in her stomach. The thought of attending such an event filled her with anxiety. Would people judge her if she didn't wear something extravagant? Could she hold her own without relying on external validation? That evening, Adunni confided in Ngozi about the invitation. What should I do? She asked, pacing back and forth in their tiny apartment. Part of me thinks it could be a good opportunity, but another part feels like I'd just be playing dress up again. Ngozi shrugged. Why not go and see how it feels? Just promise me one thing, don't change who you are to fit in. Wear whatever makes you feel confident, not what you think other people expect. Her advice stuck with Adunni. After some deliberation, she decided to attend, but on her terms. Instead of rushing to buy something expensive or trendy, she chose a modest yet elegant outfit from her newly curated wardrobe, a navy blue jumpsuit paired with simple gold earrings. She styled her hair naturally and skipped heavy makeup, opting instead for a fresh-faced look. When Saturday evening arrived, Adunni stepped into Eco Hotel feeling both nervous and determined. The venue buzzed with energy, students mingling with corporate executives, everyone dressed to the nines. Adunni immediately noticed how different she looked compared to most attendees, many of whom wore designer labels and elaborate hairstyles. But instead of shrinking into herself, Adunni held her head high. She reminded herself why she was here, to network, to learn, and to grow, not to compete in a beauty pageant. To her surprise, people gravitated toward her. Without the distraction of flashy clothing or dramatic poses, they seemed drawn to her genuine smile and thoughtful conversation. One executive even complimented her authenticity, saying, "It's refreshing to meet someone who isn't trying too hard to impress." By the end of the night, Adunni had exchanged contact information with several professionals and received invitations to collaborate on projects. As she left the hotel, she couldn't help but feel proud of herself, not because she'd won anything, but because she'd stayed true to her values. The following Monday, however, reality hit hard. A group of classmates cornered her during lunch break, their expression smug. "So, we heard you were at the mixer," one of them said, eyeing her skeptically. "Didn't think you'd show up looking so basic." Adunni felt her cheeks flush, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Basic," she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "What does that even mean?" Another classmate chimed in. "You know what I'm talking about? Everyone else was dressed to slay, and you showed up looking like you didn't care." For a moment, Adunni doubted herself. Had she made a mistake? Should she have tried harder to blend in? Then she remembered Mama Adebola's words, "True strength comes from within." With newfound resolve, Adunni met their gazes steadily. "Maybe I didn't dress like everyone else," she said firmly. "But I went there to connect with people, not to compete with them. If that's basic, then so be it." Her classmates stared at her, momentarily speechless. Then, one by one, they turned away, muttering under their breath. Later that day, Ngozi found Adunni sitting alone under a tree on campus. "How are you holding up?" she asked gently. Adunni sighed. "Honestly, I feel like I passed the test, but it wasn't easy. I still care what people think sometimes." "That's normal," Ngozi reassured her. "But the fact that you stood your ground says a lot about how far you've come." Adunni nodded, smiling faintly. She knew she wouldn't stop facing challenges or judgment, but she also knew she was stronger than she'd ever given herself credit for. Adunni's confidence grew with each passing day, but she still felt like a lone wolf in a world that valued conformity over individuality. She often wondered if others shared her struggles, whether there were people out there who also questioned the relentless pursuit of materialism and social media validation. One afternoon, as she browsed through online forums for university students, she stumbled upon a post titled, "Who Else Feels Overwhelmed by Societal Pressures?" Intrigued, she clicked on it and found herself reading heartfelt stories from young people across Nigeria, and even beyond, who felt trapped in cycles of comparison and self-doubt. "I thought I was the only one," Adunni whispered to herself, scrolling through the comments. One response caught her eye. "We need spaces where we can support each other instead of competing. Let's create something real." The comment was written by someone named Zainab, a student at another university in Lagos. Inspired, Adunni decided to reach out privately. "Hi Zainab," she typed. "I read your comment and loved your idea. I think creating a supportive community sounds amazing. What do you think about starting something together?" To her delight, Zainab replied almost immediately. "Yes. I've been thinking about this for a while. We could host events or workshops focused on self-awareness, sustainability, and mental health. Interested?" Adunni grinned. "Absolutely." Over the next few weeks, Adunni and Zainab worked tirelessly to bring their vision to life. They called their initiative Rooted Voices, a nod to staying grounded in authenticity while amplifying diverse perspectives. Their first event was a small gathering at a cozy cafe in Yoba, inviting students from different universities to share their experiences and ideas. On the day of the event, Adunni arrived early to help set up. As attendees trickled in, she noticed a mix of familiar faces and strangers, all carrying an air of curiosity and openness. When it was time to start, Zainab stood up to introduce the session. "Welcome to Rooted Voices," she began, her voice warm and inviting. "This is a safe space to unlearn toxic habits, celebrate our uniqueness, and build connections based on genuine understanding. Today, we'll focus on rejecting materialism and embracing simplicity." As the discussion unfolded, Adunni listened intently to the stories shared by others. A graphic design student talked about how he stopped chasing trends and started creating art that reflected his culture. A biology major confessed that she used to hoard clothes to feel accepted, only to realize they weighed her down emotionally. Each story resonated deeply with Adunni, reminding her that she wasn't alone in her journey. When it was her turn to speak, Adunni took a deep breath and opened up about her experience with the cursed dress. "It sounds crazy, I know," she admitted, smiling nervously. "But that dress taught me something valuable. It showed me how much energy I wasted trying to keep up appearances. Breaking free hasn't been easy, but finding people who understand makes all the difference." Her honesty earned applause and nods of agreement from the group. For the first time, Adunni truly felt part of a community, a place where vulnerability wasn't weakness but strength. After the event, several attendees approached Adunni to thank her for sharing her story. One girl, wearing a simple cotton dress, hugged her tightly. "Your words gave me courage," she said softly. "I've been struggling too, but now I know I'm not alone." Adunni hugged her back, tears welling up in her eyes. She realized that her journey wasn't just about personal growth, it was about inspiring others to break free from societal chains as well. Later that night, as Adunni lay in bed reflecting on the day, she received a message from Zainab, "You did amazing today. This is just the beginning." Smiling, Adunni replied, "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you, or everyone else who showed up. Together, we are stronger." Months passed, and Rooted Voices grew into a thriving movement. What started as a small gathering in a cafe had evolved into workshops, panel discussions, and even social media campaigns aimed at challenging societal norms. Adunni and Zainab became local icons for their advocacy of authenticity, sustainability, and mental health awareness. Students from universities across Nigeria joined the cause, sharing their stories and spreading the message far beyond Lagos. But despite her success, Adunni knew that true change required more than just talk, it demanded action. And one day, an opportunity arose to put her beliefs to the ultimate test. It began with an invitation from a prominent fashion brand hosting a high-profile event in Victoria Island. The theme: Slay Your Way to Success. At first, Adunni dismissed the email. She had no interest in promoting materialism or superficial ideals. But when she noticed the event was being advertised on billboards and social media feeds everywhere, she realized its influence could reach thousands of young people. "This is dangerous," she told Zainab during one of their brainstorming sessions. "They're glorifying fast fashion and toxic trends. We can't let this go unchallenged." Zainab nodded thoughtfully. "What if we crash the party?" "Not literally, but what if we use their platform to deliver our message?" Adunni's eyes widened. "You mean, infiltrate the event?" "Exactly," Zainab said with a mischievous grin. "Turn their stage into ours." The night of the event arrived, and Adunni stood outside the glittering venue, her heart pounding. She wore a simple white dress made from locally sourced fabric, a stark contrast to the flashy outfits paraded by attendees. In her hand, she clutched a sign that read, "True confidence comes from within." As guests filed into the hall, Adunni approached the entrance cautiously. Security guards eyed her suspiciously, but before they could question her, Zainab stepped forward with tickets she'd purchased earlier. "She's with me," Zainab said confidently, flashing a winning smile. The guards reluctantly let them pass. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Models strutted down a runway showcasing designer clothes, while influencers posed for photos against neon backdrops. Adunni scanned the room, searching for the perfect moment to make her move. When the host took the stage to announce the keynote speaker, a famous stylist known for promoting excessive consumerism, Adunni saw her chance. With Zainab's encouragement, she walked calmly toward the front of the crowd, holding up her sign. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steady despite the nerves coursing through her. "Can I say something?" The audience turned to look at her, some amused, others annoyed. The host frowned. "Who are you?" "My name is Adunni," she replied, stepping onto the stage. "And I'm here to remind everyone that confidence isn't about what you wear, it's about who you are. Fast fashion might seem glamorous, but it exploits workers, damages the environment, and traps us in cycles of comparison and self-doubt." The room fell silent. Cameras clicked furiously as Adunni continued. "We don't need expensive clothes or designer labels to feel worthy. True beauty comes from embracing simplicity, supporting ethical practices, and lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, applause broke out, from a few people at first, then the entire room. Some attendees cheered loudly, while others nodded in agreement. Even the stylist looked impressed, though slightly uncomfortable. Afterward, reporters swarmed Adunni, eager to hear more about her message. Her story went viral overnight, sparking conversations about the impact of fast fashion and the importance of self-worth beyond appearances. In the weeks that followed, Adunni reflected on everything she'd been through, the cursed dress, the healer's wisdom, the challenges of standing up for her beliefs, and now, this unexpected triumph. She realized that her journey wasn't just about rejecting materialism, it was about finding balance, embracing vulnerability, and inspiring others to do the same. She decided to share her final thoughts in a heartfelt post on Instagram. "Dear friends, this has been an incredible journey, and I've learned so much along the way. Here are my key takeaways. Keycap 1: Never let material possessions define your worth. True confidence comes from within. Keycap 2: Be cautious about second-hand items, they may carry energies you don't understand. Wash them thoroughly or consult a trusted healer if needed. Keycap 3: Comparison culture will always exist, but you have the power to step away from it. Focus on what makes you happy, not what society tells you should. Keycap 4: Surround yourself with supportive communities. You're never alone in your struggles. Keycap 5: Lastly, remember that every choice you make, whether it's buying clothes or posting online, has an impact. Choose wisely, and choose kindness. Thank you all for following my story. Let's continue building a world where authenticity reigns supreme. And so, Adunni's story came full circle. From chasing likes to inspiring real change, she proved that true strength lies in staying grounded and helping others find their roots. Moral of the story: material possessions may glitter, but they rarely bring lasting happiness. True confidence and fulfillment come from within and from connecting with others authentically. Always question societal pressures, embrace simplicity, and surround yourself with positivity. Remember, the most valuable things in life aren't things at all. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment below, and don't forget to click that link below in the description. Let us know how this story resonated with you, or share your own lessons learned. Together, we can inspire meaningful change.